on your computer, tablet, smartphone, or smart speaker. The Journey. Delving into the unknown and asking the questions. David Hackett.
Hi everyone, another journey. Today's journey is a dynamic professional speaker, personal development and coaching expert specializing in leadership, communication and connection, with a proven track record addressing military personnel, law enforcement, educators and corporate professionals. Our guest inspires C-suite executives to achieve peak performance and build meaningful relationships. There's more on his bio, but as I always say to my guests, and I say to you on the journey, it's not about my journey unless I relate to it, and I probably will relate somewhere along the lines, but it's Leroy's journey. So welcome to the journey.
No, thank you so much, David. It's an absolute pleasure meeting you. And as a fellow countryman from the UK as well, it's great to meet up, and I'm looking forward to this wonderful discussion and to share some value with your audience.
You're welcome. And networking wherever you are in the world, if you're British living in America, if you're American living in Britain, where China living in Australia, it's a way of connecting, and that's what I like. And over the years, networking, I believe, is a good way forward of making yourself out there, but at the same time, you're getting to know people, you're getting to know how they are, you're getting to experience their lives.
No, that's so powerful and so true.
So, I like to start this, and I've told you this pre-interview start, so you know what I'm going to say. Earliest memories is always powerful because there's always something that you did as a child. Now, people say, yes, I was born, I was a toddler, I was doing this, but obviously there was something powerful that kick-started your journey. So tell us this journey, how it started for you.
No, powerful, and thank you for the question. The story that stands out powerfully in my mind, I can remember way back in the early 90s when my older brother and we had a little tape recorder, and we were, experimenting with the tape recorder. It was cassette those days, and we were learning how to record, pressing the buttons down and stuff like that. And for the very first time, I heard my voice being played back over the recording. And when I heard myself, I said, wow, I really like that. And I didn't know that in the future, I would be this individual that is, has grown into the person I am, where I recognize that in that moment, I was exposed to what is my gift, my strong point, and that's the ability to communicate, to connect. So that's the powerful story I can remember that started this journey all for me.
Yeah, and you talk about, and this is where the relatability comes in, you talk about cassette. Yes, everyone who was a child who had access to a cassette player and a recorder and a tape which was either 60 minutes or 90 minutes, 45 and 30 minutes, long each side. Everyone had a cassette tape. Everyone liked to make their own, own radio station per se, because it was like, you're listening to David on the journey. And then you play music or, it's like little memories like that. I've often felt like when I did those sort of things back then, and I called my cassette tapes Cool Classics for You, it was just like two songs and then me talking. And then I remember when I did the radio, it was always two songs and you talk. And then it became three songs and you talk. And you had an hour show or you had 2 hour shows, but you had to balance the speech to the music. So you had to work out what was the show about, and you had to relate to how much music you can play to you talking and how long you could talk for.
No, it was incredible, and it brings so much joy when I reflect on those moments and just how much it fostered an environment of experimentation and innovation and creativity. And sadly, this generation don't really get the chance to experience that as we did. And I think that is something that we have and we should treasure.
Yeah, and I will strongly, and you probably will endorse it. If you got the recorder app on your phone, whatever phone you got, iPhone,
Mhm.
Android, there's always a recorder app you can download. Why not try it? You can save the files and you can upload them to the computer, like you know, and listen back to yourself and think, wow.
No, you're so right. And the good thing about it too, the very first time I heard that voice that I would refer to as my power voice, you tend to question yourself and say, is that really me? And as you begin to embrace that and to nurture that, then you realize that we all give a distinct sound, and there is a particular quality to the sound that we make. And that sound is not just the tone, the pace, and the pitch, but rather what we are communicating is our values or our life. And if you can connect to yourself on a deep and real level, then that's when the magic really happens. And that is what lays the foundation for authentic connection between people.
And that's what makes good radio presenter. That's what makes a good television personality because they got the confidence, they got the charisma, they got the look, whatever you want to call it. You know, if you listen to someone on the radio, yes, it may be a voice, but if you don't know what that voice looks like, you picture in your mind and you get the sense of understanding because they relate to you on so many levels. And that's what I believe a podcast is about. I've been following podcasts since 2004, since they were the early days of podcasts. And back then, there's no visualization to them. Now I'm doing the podcast as I am now, where visually you can physically see someone, you can hear physically someone, but you're making that difference. And I believe, and this is what I've been hearing the last few weeks, that voice of me just talking in podcasts is relatable to some people and they can feel at ease because that's what settles their mind because they're so used to listening to a particular topic.
No, you're so powerful, David. And again, that is why I congratulate you and for what you do, because this is extraordinary. Um, One other thing too, and I know we will get to that as well, and it is when you look at the mainstream media and the position that they have held for a very long time, where they had that monopoly on the space, but now they have lost credibility. And they are fighting very hard to rebuild that, but that will take time. And it
Mm.
is voices like these coming from podcasts like yours that is offering people a place and a space where they can come and they can have honest conversations and listen to real, authentic, um, you know, sharing of ideas between people that really motivate and inspire and bring people together. And that's what we need. And I mentioned this earlier that most people use communicate, well, most people communicate to deceive for a profit. And that's tragic, but it happens. And something as great a gift as communication, I think, is a powerful tool which should be used to elevate people and to bring people together.
Yeah.
And that's what you're doing with your
Mm.
show. And people listen to that. And
Yeah.
I celebrate that.
And, you know, the only thing I try to get out of the podcast, yes, I do it out for goodness of my art, but at the same time, you have to get some sort of revenue, and the revenue
Mhm,
will come through sponsorships. And I'm not trying to segue this in intentionally, but if you like to sponsor the journey, they can. They just have to get in touch with me, and then they can say, "I sponsor you. I'll give you this amount if you promote my business," and I'm willing to do that.
mhm, mhm.
And
Yeah,
that's
and
and
then
that's and that's perfectly normal.
of course, and that's what collaboration and partnership is all about. It's about adding value to people. Um, and there's no better way of doing that than to forge collaborative relationships going forward that is value based.
Mm,
Because like I said, there are people that you can reach and you have been reaching that I by myself would never be able to reach. And I'm being introduced to your audience, and your audience is going to receive value from what we talk about here. So I think that's a very good thing.
yeah, and you know, I will say this for your side. You can share any podcast you want. If you think you want to share any podcast, feel free because obviously there is value out there. You can share your one, obviously, which I will make sure you get a copy of, but you can share any copy. But my question is, and it's going back to you saying about the bigger companies, and I'm not going to name drop any intentionally for legal reasons, but those ones that monopolize, you said they are where they are now, and playing, I would say, catch up because you've got community radio stations up and coming nowadays. I was part of a community radio station that started online. It got to FM. It covers a small area of where I was in the UK, but I believe community, and that's the key word I like using, community is about the community, and it's not about one big brand with this is one radio station. Look at me. I got this. I got this. I got this. So forth. It's about the local feeling of people to say, I know that person. They talking about, for example, and I'll say place in England, Penzance, or this is Bromley in London, or this is Nottingham in so forth. It's about relatability to what's local around you without someone from the big corporate say, this is Cambourne with a U, and it's not, no, it's not Cambourne with a U, it's Cambourne with no U. And that's one thing as a Cornish man that always sticks in my mind. It's like, why say Cambourne with a U? Cambourne with a U's in Cambridgeshire, not Cambourne in Cornwall.
No, you're perfectly right. And I'm happy how you're stressing the importance of community. And whatever we do, it should serve the interests of the people that we live and work amongst. For example, equally, I believe like businesses, they should have community interests and they have a responsibility to ensure that the area within which they operate and do business, they're also giving back to the community and they have a responsibility to do so. And it's not something that should be an afterthought. It should be a part of the values that they espouse as a business.
Mm.
And if you do give back, that should first start with your relationship internally with your team and how you manage your team. And you should know that we are all in business to solve problems. We are in business to add value to people and to make a difference. And there's no better way of doing that than to operate from an environment that have that community spirit of solidarity and togetherness where everybody's working towards a common goal.
Yeah, and that is another thing. Community, not just diversity in England. I've been in America for 6 years now, 7 years this year, and I believe it's 76, 1921, 2, 3, yeah, 6, 7 years this year. I had to
Mhm,
think then. But,
mhm.
I've been part of a community in where I've lived, solidarity because it's been new to where I live now. But at the same time, when you look online, you do see community groups, you do see more for the community. And I believe community radio as a whole, and I will say more of community radio because I believe community radio is the way it is in America because of how niche it is. Yes, you got the multi areas of different aspects of life, and that's what makes the community. Now, it's the same for England, but at the same time, they're trying to make it different in England because they want to make it for that locality, and that's good because that's what makes it strong. It's like a radio station in England. I will say where I was in England, Cornwall, I will give this as a classic example. It was a local radio station. The monopoly came in and made it the big brand name. That local was gone. It took community radio. It took a DAB radio station. There's community radio stations in Cornwall, and there's a radio station in Cornwall's on DAB, which is digital radio, if anyone asks in the comments for American listeners. They said we're the local for local now because locals. gone what you did have, but we're willing to be its best alternative and not trying to substitute away from what it was. But those local community stations based in Cornwall, yes, they're still local. They still talk local things. This DAB radio station in Cornwall, we're local for the local, and they do interview local people. It's hosted by local people. It engages with local businesses. It does things for local businesses. It does charity events for local people as well.
And that's powerful. And it is that spirit that we need to keep alive. It is that spirit that we need that is not self-centered, knowing that I've always lived by the philosophy, let me start there, that we are not just here to be here, but we are also here to make a contribution. And whether that be in the marketplace, whether that be in our area of work or where we do business, we have to bring that sense of community, and we have to always think win-win. For example, and I like to ask these questions with the people I do work. When you win, who win with you? And if we are not taking people along with us who are supporting us on our success journey, then I think we are doing a disservice. And we have to think community,
Mm,
and that's a powerful thing, and we should never lose sight of that.
mm. And community does pull together.
Correct.
You live in a certain area, something happens, what do you get? You get a knock on the door, hopefully, and say, "Are you okay?" Now, I grew up, the doors were open. There was a community where you could just knock on the door, shout up the stairs. Nowadays, it's doors closed, and I get things changed.
Hmm.
But you still can knock on the door. Are you okay? That's what it takes.
Hmm. No, you're perfectly right. You're perfectly right. And I think that the same is true for in the area that I operate. If you have a team working with you, people will not follow you if they can't trust you. And people will know if you do not care about them genuinely. And too sadly, I have witnessed situation where the concept or the philosophy that is being lived by or lived out is one that goes like this. If I can't use you, I don't need you. And if I can no longer use you, then I have no more use for you. And I think that doesn't serve anyone in the long term. And if you want to have people who are committed and loyal to a cause, then I think leaders have to embody those principles, the principles of commitment themselves, the principles of loyalty themselves. And when you really do believe and you live that, you manifest that daily, then the impact of your example on them will inspire them to join in likewise.
Yeah. And it's just that balance, and I know the balance is there, but at the same time, it's got to be maintained. It can't be
Mm.
just one person, and that's the problem. Some people like to go out in their own one man or one person, should I say, crusade and make it about them, and it's not. It's about one person of another person of another person, and you see that effect. It's a ripple effect that happens, and it's like at the end result, it's like one big bloomed green tree that's like an oak tree per se. I'd say the biggest tree I know, oak tree, and it's just blooming.
No, you're perfectly right. And whilst it goes both ways and it takes two to tango, as the old saying goes,
Mm,
but I believe there are times when you need a catalyst, you need a prime mover. And I think that is where leadership comes in, because there is a gentleman that I'm so fascinated by his body of work, Dr. Miles Monroe. And one of the statements he makes a lot concerning leadership is that he said, leaders make things happen. They they make things improve, they make things succeed, and they make people committed. So in other words, in a nutshell, what he's saying is leaders determine everything. And you must have somebody who is so committed to a task and a cause, and they should be able to inspire people by their own passion and commitment. And hopefully, if they do that consistently and they're committed to that, they will inspire people around them likewise to recognize that they too have a role to play and they too have a contribution to make. And that's when you have the integration of different purposes and passion. And that doesn't happen until when somebody recognizes their role and step into that.
Yeah,
And we need to see more of that happening.
I agree. So going into the present now, and we have been roughly talking about the present as we have, but in the present, how do you feel you see yourself? Do you see as you've grown older, things have gone better for you in the way that you feel at ease to say, I've achieved something and I'm proud of achieving that?
Yeah, yes, no doubt about that. I think for the most part, like many people, one of the things that I believe I struggled with for a very long time was believing that I could do what I'm doing now. And for the longest while, I compared myself to others, and I tried to be something other than what I was truly passionate about. And it's just a part of the whole conditioning that we receive and just fitting in. But in that, I was not finding fulfillment.
Hmm.
But when I recognized and I took the time to look at my own experience so far and to really truly analyze what it is that I'm really good at and where I'm making the most impact and difference. And that is, I am very passionate about leading teams and teaching people how to do that. And that is one of the reasons why I am so passionate about doing that, because there's so much happen when people discover their own ability and to lead effectively. And whilst I personally believe this is my philosophy, we're all born to lead, I believe you have to discover that and you have to refine that. And that takes training and coaching. And I'm happy when I see the results I can achieve when I help people who have a major goal, and just to be there and to support them to achieve that in a much shorter space of time than they would ever be able to achieve on their own. And personally, for me, I am so grateful that I would have had the opportunity to be mentored by so many people. The Leroy that you see here today, I did not grow into this person by myself. So many people have poured into me to make me into the person I am, and yet still I'm constantly growing. And there's a hunger and a thirst for continuous improvement, and that should be there. So
Hmm.
I'm quite pleased that I am able to impact the lives of others in the way that I do in the services I do offer as a coach. And the future going forward is for me to impact more lives. And my BHAG, to use a Jim Collins terminology, big, hairy, audacious goal, is to get to that place where I am impacting 1 million leaders, influencing their leadership development and their connection with their teams so that they can impact 1 billion teams by 2028. That's a hefty goal and task, which means, therefore, that is not something I can achieve on my own. And as I continue consistently persist along this pathway and to pursue my passion, my aim is to inspire many others who feel as strongly as I do to join this great cause and to help to motivate the masses and to influence people to become self-persuaded and move from ordinary to great.
Yeah. And that's the thing that I've achieved over the years, it's just, I will, like I said, I like relating because it is a relatable thing. Because I remember when I first started doing radio work, yes, I was a broadcast assistant per se, the one who would randomly will talk to the radio presenter, help and read out the travel. When it came to talking to people outside that studio, I was shy, I was nervous, I was. pretty much socially awkward.
Mhm. No,
I
if I
left
might.
I left there 10 years afterwards to obviously immigrate, and the words were before I left was, David is one of our most dependable. He will look, he is there for everything that we do. He will do this, he will do that. And you look at him now, he's not hiding away, he's not shying away. He's a more confident person for what he's achieved by being himself.
No, and what I wanted was to come in to say, and I was so excited when you say that. And I really, again, I applaud you for doing that. There's nothing more powerful than when we can admit our own shortcomings and how we overcome them over time. And just in that moment, as you shared your vulnerability there, people can connect more with you because that pulled me in. Because as you spoke then, I could see myself in everything you were saying. So that's really powerful. And that's an amazing thing to say. Thank you.
Mhm. So, and the confidence came because people believed in me. Yes, I had
Mm,
my ups and downs in that 10 years of me doing the radio. And I always had the same support because they believed in me. And that support was always, per se, said to the, board at level to say, look, David's this, David's this, David's that. I think David would be good for us still because of what he's done for us before. And I'm proud of those achievements. Just like I got to do many things when I was at the radio. When the Queen came down to Cornwall once, and it was my only like a month or two into me being at the radio, I said, let's go down to where she's coming in on the train, go to the train station. We had no press badges, so we was only still online, so it was only heard of as the radio station. Who are you again? And I got down, me and the youngest presenter of the radio at the time, he was only 16, I believe, at the time, and I got me and him down there and said, okay, just follow me. And I got us to the where the police officer was standing by and I said, we're from such and such radio. Can we come into the press enclosure because we're recording, for live for the on air now. They didn't ask for press or passes or anything, but they said, okay, here we go. And then I remember it infamously, we got into the press enclosure, the 16-year-old young presenter as he was then, like, oh, you got to sit to the press enclosure, we're going to be up close. I said, yeah. And and that was my first time being on the radio, but at the same time, I was new to the job. I could have, been rejected, like, why you're part of it? You're not invited, but we was allowed in. We was talking on the phone because that's all we had. We didn't have camera video phones at the time, so it was all phone. It was a normal phone, but it was just like no video. And I remember the presenter saying to the person, other presenter, he's like, talking to him. And he said, "Here's David." So he passed my phone back to me, and I was like, "Where is the Queen now, David?" And I said, "The Queen's within sneezing distance of myself." Sneezing distance? She was within distance, not sneezing distance. That went out live on radio. And
no,
that was just funny because afterwards, when we had the time after she'd been in the car and she drove off, the presenter who was with me said, that was really good. You was the professional one. You was the more Nicholas Ritchell, which is the former royal correspondent of the BBC. And I was the Jenny Bond.
mm,
So I
mm,
was
mm.
like, I like how you refer to me as the more experienced one, even though Jenny Bond was on the same level key as Nicholas Ritchell. But the point was, it was like he was referring to I was the more light-hearted person, while you was the more serious. This is the Queen walking past me. She's within sneezing distance. Now, I didn't realize I said sneezing distance until I listened to afterwards, and the presenter who's on the radio said, did you know you actually said she was within sneezing distance? It was meant to be within distance.
No, that's an incredible story, David, and it's really powerful to hear. And there's so much takeaway from that for me. And the key thing is being authentically you and being yourself.
Hmm.
And when you do that, that's when you make an impact and that's when you make a difference. And I also mentioned the feedback you received from your colleague at the time. Those things are very important as well, because as a people, we need feedback, and especially when we have people who gives us the type of feedback to improve, but they also build us up as well. Because we need those praises for when we step out and, you know, show courage and become vulnerable in spaces like these. Because it took so much to do what you did. And even though you gave that wonderful commentary in a unique way, that's iconic. Within sneezing distance, that will always be remembered.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
just that was the highlight. And then obviously I didn't have a radio show at the time, and so that was the experience for me. And then when it did come to experience of being on there, I remember it was like January 11 years ago. Yeah, 11 because I said 10 years I left the radio, but 11 years ago I had to cover for someone on the radio. It was in January 2011, so yeah, so many years ago. But the fact was, no one could do the news that day either. So because we didn't use a major news corporation to bring the news in at the time, we had, used the words that we saw and read our own version of that news. So it was read from a certain source, but it was transcribed into our words. And I remember 7 o'clock, this was before I was on air, I had to record the old news for the old days, so it's pre-recorded. I didn't have to worry about it. One of the news articles, it involved a certain word, and it was meant to be. It was, I think, it was the weather because I had to do the weather as well. It was like showers are intimate today, not intermittent. So from 8 o'clock in the morning right through to 12 o'clock at night, or whenever the last news was broadcast, David was reading the weather, and it said intimate showers. I'm
No, you
like,
see,
I'm like, and I didn't even realize.
no, you see, again, you have now shared another story, which most people will never speak about the mistakes they have made. And I wouldn't even refer to them as mistakes, really. But what that shows is that we're always on a journey.
Hmm,
And whenever we do have slippages or encounters like this, we should never give up.
yeah,
Just imagine if you took that wrongly and say, "Oh, I'm not going to do this again. I'm no longer good at this." But you did not. You persist. And as a result of you doing that, I have the privilege of meeting you and being interviewed by you on your show. And I think so many people out there, especially this generation, they need to know that you don't have to be perfect. What's most important is that you be yourself and you never give up and you need to believe in yourself and you will improve over time. And it speaks also about our potential. And potential is not what you have done. Because there are so many people, they are good at what they do. They're just doing the same thing over and over, but they are living beneath their potential. But what new have you done? It's about getting out there, out of your comfort zone and doing something new. And then you realize what you're really and truly capable of. And not only that, but because you have those experiences and you can share them, other people who are just starting out at their journey are not as far as long, they can hear your powerful representation of your experience and they can see themselves in that and that will inspire
yeah.
them to persist and to go on. So that's really good.
Yeah, and those stories, like you said, are just part of my life. And
Mm,
when I do talk to people about certain ways of how I am, I do thank certain people in my life for making me the way I am. And one person, I know he probably won't listen to it, but if I mention that I said his name, he probably will listen to it. But the fact is, that one person always believed in me, and
mm,
you know, he liked my way. Yes, he was meant to be the manager, but he did a lot for me in understanding my true potential. And then there was another person who was also at the time manager, and then he just became a presenter. But he was also my old school teacher, and
mm,
he said, "I've seen a lot of progress in you since you left school. I'm impressed with how you've gone. I'm impressed what you've done. I'm impressed where you are now." And I'm like, "I'm still me, but I'm grateful for your support. I'm encouraged by the fact that you still believe in me, you support me, and it's just those small things that makes the difference, in my opinion, to make that impact. And incidentally, there is that podcast. It's in. I'll make sure it's in the description afterwards as well. But I remember interviewing him, and even though I know his life,
Wow.
it's
Wow.
just good to hear outside that box of being in the radio, outside that box being your teacher. He was just, and I don't mind saying his name, he was just Alan, you
Mm.
know. And then the person who supports me for what I did for the radio, Dave Pascoe, I'm proud of what he's done for me as a person because he helped me build myself up. So Dave Pascoe and Alan Jones are two people I say have made that difference in making me feel more confident in myself. Those two people believed in me no matter what. Yes, they've been there for me. They listened to me when I'm upset. They listened to me when I was angry, but they still good friends I can turn to and say, thank you for being there.
No, that's truly powerful and incredible, and thank you so much for sharing that. And I too have to make mention of the great mentors who I have in my life who have helped to make me into the person I am today. And mentorship is key. And you probably have heard the statement before, there is no success without succession. And too many times, and even the same Jim Collins speak about those level 5 leaders. Those are leaders who have achieved success. But success is good, but significance is better. And you have to be able to move from success to significance. And the way I sum that up, that transition from success to significance, I sum up in these words. Can you settle for, or can you be happy with being second after you have been first? Are you happy in leaving the scene and allow somebody else to go forward and even to become better than you? Are you willing to train those people? And what you have mentioned just there is people who have poured into you positively and helped to build you up. And again, like I said, I have the privilege now to meet you and to speak to you on your show. And this is going out there for so many people to see.
Yeah.
So that's really incredible. And that's a powerful story.
Now, going into the future and obviously talking about, what we can see, and you're going to promote it in, and will be a link. Explain about the QR code for the ones that can see, but also explain how they can get it if they can't see it.
Perfect. No, thank you. So to my top right, there's a QR code here. And that QR code, what it has is just a link to a review for my talk and this incredible show today. And at the end of it, there is a free checklist. So that checklist is 10 incredible steps that give actionable strategies that anyone who work with teams really can apply immediately and help with their team disconnection. As I said to you earlier in the chat, the people we lead will only follow us if they trust us. And that's a good starting place. So by scanning the QR code, you'll have access directly to that free resource, which I would recommend to you. It will also be available in the show notes. Additionally, your guests can follow me on LinkedIn at my name, Leroy Roberts, at LinkedIn, and just DM me and I'll be happy to connect with them there.
Okay. And you said that link for the QR code will be available to me, which I was put because obviously I haven't got it at the moment, but I know you're going to email it to me.
Perfect, yes.
Last question, and it's one way to conclude all things, and it's a way of looking forward to helping others. There is people on their journey. There is people who like to ask questions on their journey.
Mm.
But ultimately, the one simple question is, what would you say to those people starting on their journey, stuck in their journey, lost in their journey, whatever you want to, make that applicable to whatever you want? What would you say to them?
I would say this, you are special and there is something that you are carrying that the world needs. And you need to believe in yourself. And until when you see it for yourself, no one else will. So you need to believe in yourself and believe that you're a person of value and you are here to add value. And you know what's most important? The value that you come to bring to this world. Only you can deliver that value. So if you don't deliver that value to the world, you are robbing us. So I would encourage you, do not rob us of the good that we should receive through you, whoever you are. So manifest your greatness and make an impact that will change the world in your own unique way.
Leroy, amazing words to end this interview. I thank you for being part of the journey. Like I said, the links will be in the description afterwards or below whenever you will see this. And I thank you again. It's good to hear someone from England because don't get me wrong, I'm not being different here, but I like hearing people from England. It just makes me have that connection again. And it's like, I don't like your accent because I'm so used to it. But it's a common thing. I get people liking my accent because it's different, but it's also good to have the good diversity across the world, wherever you are. And I do strongly suggest if you want to get involved with a journey like Leroy is, just listen to the words at the end of a podcast. That's all I can say. And if you want to sponsor the podcast, remember, drop me a line also. But Leroy, thank you for sharing your journey today.
Thank you so much, David. Really powerful. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
now, a message from Amy. Amy, it's over to you.
Hello, I am Amy Harrison. I'm the author of the book Feline Warrior Part 1 and Part 2, a fictional story that is written in a poetic format that is based on real-life events that could happen to anyone and intended only for relatable purposes. This story claws into Catgirl's past abuse. Catgirl is human and part feline, but truly a warrior who can handle anything because she is strong and fierce. She has been taken advantage of for far too long. Join her on her journey as she reaches freedom. Here are some poems from Feline Warrior. Tears flow. I no longer know what to do. I am no longer who I once was, and it is because I made a choice to use my voice. And that is okay, because what I had to say was true, unlike me and you. Now I see. I am free. I am me. I am Catgirl. Ultimately, be you. Always stay true. Do what you want to do, because every day is made new. If you want to read more, visit the link in the description. Meow at you later.
Music by Erica R. from Pixar Bay.
The Journey podcast explores stories of personal growth, challenges, and life-changing moments. Each episode dives into unique experiences, offering insights and inspiration for listeners navigating their own paths. I believe everyone has a story worth sharing. If you'd like to share your journey with David and others, email your story to wisewords1983@reborn.com, and it may be featured in a future episode.